Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Encourage Mindset. I'm your host, Ethan Vandehive. Alongside me today, I have a guest in Elizabeth Rhyno. I'm very excited to have her on and excited to hear what she's going to explain to us and excited to get to know her a little bit better. Elizabeth, why don't you tell the audience and myself a little bit more about you?
Sure. Thanks for the invite to be here today, Ethan. I really appreciate it. I love the premise of your podcast, Encourage Mindset, and I felt like when we connected on LinkedIn, we were a good match for each other. I'm all about helping people to kind of discover who they are and to live out their very best. And so I do that a lot of ways. I'm a faith-based life coach, actually certified as a life coach. And so my primary focus with coaching is women and helping women to uncover their unique purpose, like what they've been designed, why they're here on earth, what they've been designed for. And we go through a lot of different techniques and activities to figure that out. Another part of how I coach them is helping them to look back to the circumstances, the good, the bad, the ugly of what they've lived through, and begin to consider how each of those things has shaped them and prepared them to be able to invest in other people, to be able to make a difference in the world. And what I find is when people figure out why and how their story has created them to be who they are now, and they begin to live into their purpose, they become people of incredible joy. And so my whole focus and my whole purpose is to let joy loose around me. And so that's, the chief way that I do that with women is helping them to live into their purpose, and therefore they become people of joy. And I love it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome and very
Yeah.
rewarding. So today we are going to be talking about focusing on building joy by finding your purpose. And I know your niche is on women, but this actually hits on all areas.
Totally.
So before I give some of my key aspects of what I believe this is, what are kind of your thoughts on this concept we're talking about today?
Well, I guess here's the thing. One of my big thoughts is that joy and happiness are not necessarily the same thing. Happiness is very fleeting. We know that. Happiness is a lot of times just circumstantial. We have a great day, something good happens to us, we feel happy. Something goes really bad, somebody cuts us off, somebody says something bad about us, we do something wrong at work, we are not happy. Joy is different than that. Joy is like a muscle. You go to the gym and you work your muscles and you do it repetitively, you do it on purpose with intention, and over time you get stronger and your body functions better. Well, I feel like joy is also a muscle. It's something that we can intentionally work out and we can work at and we can build it. And what happens when we do that, when we're really intentional to build our joy, then when life circumstances happen to us that suck, that hurt us or that make us unhappy, we still have this steadfast level of joy that helps us to move through those things and go beyond those things and not have our legs kicked out from underneath us. So I guess the chief thing I would say is joy is a muscle. It's buildable and we can build it on purpose, and then it's going to serve us better.
Yeah, I really like that concept and the muscle aspect of it. One of the big pieces that I kind of put together for finding your purpose in life, and it can be a powerful way to build joy and focus in your life. The concept that I really struck to me before we were kind of pre-talking this was take some time to reflect on what brings you joy and fulfillment. Think about the activities, the experiences, and the people that make you happy and energized. Because when you do that, it's going to help you identify your passions, your interests, and that can all be a great starting point for finding your purpose.
Absolutely. And I mean, when we know ourselves like that, when we know the things that really make us tick and light up, and also the things that we're just naturally good at, and then we start to apply those things into our day-to-day rhythms, we just have a lot more life satisfaction. I mean, I guess I know too many people who hate their jobs and who hate what they do day in and day out, and they don't feel fulfilled by it. And I'm not saying everybody should just go quit their jobs, but I am saying you should do the self-discovery to figure out, okay, well, what do I love? What makes me radiate and just like literally vibrate with happiness? And I should find ways, whether that's vocationally or in hobby or in community service or whatever, I should find ways to put myself to that every day if I can, so that I build up life fulfillment. So exactly what you're saying, I totally agree with that.
I like that idea that you just added on there too of getting involved in your community. I
Yeah.
think like I think that is one of the greatest ways to put a smile on your face or to see somebody else with a smile on your face.
Hmm.
But although if you can't get out there with your community involvement because maybe you are in a heavy workload with a 9 to 5 job,
Hmm.
other things going on in your family or life, we
Yeah.
get that things happen.
Yeah.
But just the simple things like opening a door for somebody, or when you're at church or whatever kind of religion you focus on, just giving people basic greetings
Right.
with a smile, I think
Yeah.
that can really go a long way.
Yeah. I mean, we all have like this basic need to be known and to be seen and to feel valuable. And so the more that we can be intentional to live that out and see people and go beyond the, just the surface level, but really see them and really wonder about them and want to know who they are, how they are, and how you can come alongside them, it makes a huge difference in the world. It doesn't take much time or energy, but it does take intentionality, and it has a lasting impact on people.
Yes. And to kind of go back on what you said about if you don't like currently what you're doing in life, then I think there's some questions you need to ask yourself. And that is, for example, what is most important to you in life? What
Yeah.
do you believe in?
Right.
Because your values and priorities are going to help guide you towards a purpose that aligns you with who you are and what
Hmm.
you care about.
Yeah, for sure. We celebrate the stuff that we value, and we all have things that are really important to us and that really matter to us, and we should lean into those, and figure out, how can I lean into that thing that matters to me, and how can I make a difference with it in somebody else's life? And again, whether that happens through your vocation or not, I don't think that it only can happen through vocation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it can, and we thankfully live in the kind of, world and culture right now where we're not stuck in the same vocation, like in my parents, my grandparents generation. They started something and they stuck with that something whether they loved it or not, and they did it for their whole life. It's not like that anymore. There's so much freedom and flexibility to shift and to change and to evolve, I guess, and become more of who we really are made to be. So I would say, yeah, doing that self-discovery and asking those questions and being diligent about it, super important.
Yeah, I want to follow up on something with you. So, when I was kind of trying to put all my thoughts together for this episode, I ultimately thought the key to building joy through finding your purpose is to stay focused and committed to your goals,
Mm.
which sometimes is very difficult. So, I was
Yeah.
curious with how do we try to stay focused on our goals with all these distractions going on in our world today?
Yeah, those are great. I mean, it's so easy to get distracted and waylaid by even by circumstances and just things not going right. I think having some practices in place, some habits in place every day are really helpful for that. One of the things that I do and that I encourage clients to do on a daily basis, or even, moment by moment, is to be thankful, like literally to practice thankfulness, which sounds easy, but it's actually not easy. It's something that takes intentionality. It takes us choosing to put our perspective onto the good as opposed to focusing on the negative. But I have found myself personally, when I choose to be a person of thankfulness, a person that practices gratitude, it helps me to refocus on what am I here for, what matters to me. And so just making that a daily habit is important. Also, like you said, reminding yourself on a regular basis of what what your values are. Like what is it that makes your heart beat a little faster? What is it that you just can't help being part of in the world? Like for some people, that might be something like maybe their heart breaks for people who have food insecurity, and they just have to help with that. Or maybe for some people, it's their heart breaks for people who are limited and don't have accessibility, and so maybe they have to get involved in making sure there's accessibility for those people, or whatever. We all have things that just really matter to us, and so on the regular, especially if we find ourselves getting distracted or finding ourselves in the negative, going back to that again and again and again, saying this matters to me and I'm thankful that I can be a part of that. What am I going to do about it today? Just really challenging yourself. What am I going to do today that's going to matter for eternity?
Exactly. And I think it may not always be easy, but the sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that comes from living a life aligned with your purpose can be incredibly rewarding.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, so I agree with what you said there. And another point that I had for this topic today was seek out mentors or maybe role models who inspire you and guide you, and
Mm,
talk to people who have found their purpose and ask for
yeah.
advice and guidance.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's something I think that's a chief thing. I think that's a really important part of it is this recognizing or establishing for yourself who do you see that you want your life to mimic or emulate, or who has had such a significant impact on you that you want to be like that, and also you want to turn around and be that for someone else. I think it's a trickle down thing. And when I can consider, okay, their life impacted me, it changed me, it made me more who I am, then I'm a lot more likely to be conscious to turn around and invest myself in someone else. One of the ways that I like to do that is I have this phrase that I didn't make up, but I heard from someone else. It's having I see in you conversations, which goes beyond saying, "Hey, you're really good at sports," or "Hey, you're a really good singer." It goes further than that, and it becomes one of those moments where you really see someone, you really let them know that they are seen, and you say, "I see in you a real gift of compassion." And the world's going to come against you in that, and it's going to treat it as a weakness, but I want you to know that that's a strength, and people really need that compassion because people are hurting. Just calling those kind of gifts up out of people really helps. And I've learned that because people have done that to me. And so because people have spoken into me and called gifts, I guess, out of me, not just gifts, but qualities, called qualities out of me, it helps me to recognize how important it is to then turn around, do that with my own kids, but not even just my own kids, do that with other people who I see who need to be mentored and who would benefit from though having those gifts called out of them.
I really like that. I've never heard it, but I really like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure where it came from, and it's not mine, but I use it.
Yeah, that reminds me of another kind of note that was trickling in my head on this conversation was take small steps to move towards your purpose.
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of view what you just said there as a small step to maybe my purpose or to other people's purposes out there in life, because you're giving them that sense of fulfillment or
Right.
that sense of joy to feel
Yeah.
appreciated.
Right. I mean, everybody loves to be valued. Everybody loves to be appreciated. We all need that. It boosts our morale. It helps us to decide to take steps forward again tomorrow, and not quit. It's so easy these days to micro quit. And so we have the opportunity to choose to try again, to not beat ourselves up if we didn't take steps towards our purpose today, but to choose to move forward again tomorrow. And we have the opportunity to do the same for other people and help them to also not quit.
I love that. So, where do you find your sense of motivation for maybe you had a bad day, maybe things didn't go your way, but how do you get the motivation to know that tomorrow is a new opportunity?
Some of that just comes from my history. Like, I honestly discovered my own calling to let joy loose when I was in the middle of a depression, and I was really sad. I felt no motivation to do anything. I just had a lot of health stuff going on. My kids were going through some difficulties, that kind of stuff. So I was in a season of real difficulty and sadness. And I had this phrase, let joy loose, like basically show up on my doorstep. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. And I was kind of mad about it, honestly. Like, I felt like God gave it to me. And I was like, why would you tell me to let joy loose when I'm so sad? But because it was there and I just couldn't shake it, it made me focus on it, and it made me start thinking about joy, reading about joy, talking to people about joy. And over time, because I was diligent with it, I began to experience it. And then I began to let it loose in other people. And so I have, I have a story of overcoming depression and of overcoming purposelessness. And so when I'm not feeling motivated, I can look back on that and say, no, I know that I'm called to this. And I know that it made a difference in my life. And I know there are other people who need that too. So I guess that's the biggest motivator, or the biggest part of my story that's a motivator. I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and so they are definite motivators for me. I want to be an example of someone who perseveres through difficulty, who gets back up again when I fall down. I want them to see that, and I want them to know that that's possible, because they're going to fall, and they have. And I want them to know it's okay, and it's okay to get back up. And so they consistently motivate me, even if they don't know it. But if I'm having a day where I'm like, I don't want to get up today, I don't want to do the things I'm supposed to do today, they come to mind. And I'm like, okay, no, they're going to see what I'm doing today, and it's going to matter for them. And so I think that I would say that they are my biggest motivators.
Yeah, that's a very cool mindset, and that's just great ambition on your part. So I kind of want to flip the question a bit, and the question then is, well, is there a problem with being like too overjoyed or too fulfilled, like where it could lead to maybe like an arrogance or a cockiness or something like that?
Oh,
So do we have to have a balance per se of this joy?
that's a good question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. I feel like on occasion, I have met people who almost feel superficial in their happiness and their exuberance. And I have almost wondered, like, is that actually real? Like, are they really that happy all the time? And with some of those people, as I've walked a little bit of life with them, I've discovered it's actually just a defense mechanism, and it's not real. And it's there to cover up or mask insecurity or sadness or whatever. And so I think there is a bit of a danger there, where you can put on or pretend, I guess, to pretend to be joyful. I'm not sure that there's a risk of literally, like, actually being truly too joyful, because I feel as though as you develop joy, it doesn't necessarily mean you're happy all the time. For instance, part of my story, a couple of years ago, when I was really in the trenches of working on developing joy habits and building the muscles of joy. In that season, my mom got sick with cancer, and it was mid COVID. She was in Canada, I was in the US. And so there was a lot that was complicated about even just trying to get there to be with her. But I did. I did jump through all the hoops I needed to so I could be with her for the last couple of months of her life. And what I discovered at that point in my story was that I'm not always happy, but I am joyful. My joy was showed in hopefulness, showed in fortitude, I guess, like strength to be able to handle the difficulty of watching her in pain and knowing that she wasn't going to beat this disease. What I discovered was I was able to walk through with joy, with confidence, with hope, and all of those things alongside of her. I didn't always feel happy. Well, obviously, I was sad. I was really sad, and I didn't want to see her in pain. So the difference there between the joy and happiness was a stark difference for me. And so I would say that pretending happiness is not going to work for you long term. Building joy, though, is going to strengthen you long term. If you're a Christian, in the Bible, it tells us that it's the joy of the Lord that's our strength. And that's what I have discovered, that joy, as I've built it, it makes me stronger. And so when things don't go well, somebody says something hurtful to me, or I screw up on something, when things aren't going well, I might not feel happy, but I have this steadfast, this confident joy that helps me know that I'm gonna make it through this. This is not going to last forever, and there is going to be happiness again on the other side. So it's what helps me to be sure and to survive, I guess.
I love those answers. I am sorry about what happened with your family and everything.
Yeah, it was hard.
And it's sometimes you just got to look back at it and realize all those good memories and good moments were there.
Yeah.
Is there any final closing statements you have on today's episode of Encourage Mindset?
Yeah, well, I would say, I am confident in the belief that every single person has a unique purpose and a unique design. You're here for a reason. Like, you are literally living, breathing, walking on this earth right now for a reason. And it's because your life is meant to impact somebody else, or maybe a whole lot of other people. And so I would say, don't give up. I would say press in to do the self-discovery of figuring out, who are you? And part of that might be looking back at your story. What are the hard things that you've had to live through? So for me, I had to live through a depression. I had to live through losing my mom. I can look back at the seasons of my life that were bad, and I can see that those have shaped me now to be able to invest in other people that are going through similar things. So take a look at your story, take a look back and say, okay, what have I been prepared for? And then who can I help with that? And I promise you, as you lean in and you decide to be brave and open yourself up to help other people through those similar things that you're acquainted with, you're going to discover a joy and a strengthening and a real sense of purpose, and that your life really, really matters. I'm a coach. I help people to do this. And so if you're a woman and you're listening to this and you want a hand, I can help you with that kind of thing. It's not just for women, though. Like you said earlier, this really applies to absolutely everybody.
Awesome. I really appreciate all the kind words, all the knowledge shared, getting to meet you a little bit deeper in conversation. It's been awesome today, Elizabeth. Let's stay in touch. And for anyone listening, if they do need to reach out. Elizabeth provides great, valuable information. And once again, just thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
So if you're ready to grow, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let's build a mindset that empowers and transforms.